Good morning, everybody. You made it to Friday, which is excellent news. You deserve a pat on the back just for that. Let's get our day off to a good start, shall we? Lots of things to get to this morning. It's a jam-packed show, which I'm delighted about. We've got some great people popping in. We'll have a new guest a little bit later on, someone we haven't met before, who I'm keen to introduce to you. Ben will be joining us in a little while too, which is always good. And we want to hear from you in the comments section or on the emails. You can get hold of us on contact@cliffcentral.com. All right, so we've got a few things to talk about this morning. What do we begin with? First of all, it rained last night, which I know in Cape Town, rain in winter is normal, but in Joburg it isn't. I woke up this morning and I thought, it's very strange. I don't remember spraying everything down last night with the hose pipe, but I hadn't, obviously. It was all wet. And we had something of a little deluge last night. So, you know what? Yeah, in the middle of winter, bit of this. It still doesn't vindicate Al Gore, who turns out to be, along with, Copernicus and at least 3 popes, the worst liar in the history of the world. I mean, according to Al Gore, weren't we all meant to be underwater by now? Like, basically, everywhere that was near the sea would already be submerged, and anything 10 kilometers inland would be under severe threat of being submerged, since Al Gore's publishing of An Inconvenient Truth, a book which I have here somewhere. I should really put it into the bullshit section, shouldn't I? And I'm not looking for trouble first thing in the morning on a Friday with environmentalists just for shits and giggles. But as Pumi and I were discussing yesterday, I got thinking about this after the burning platform. It's not a priority for South Africa to be trying to green ourselves. It's not a priority for us to try and find alternative sources of energy when we have far more pressing issues, like, for example, the fact that we have enormous pollution of our waterways in South Africa. We can't seem to dispose of our waste properly. We have much bigger problems in South Africa. We don't have adequate water resources at this point. And that is a much more pressing concern than our carbon fuel emissions or our carbon dioxide emissions from the burning of fuel. So I'm not cut up about that stuff. And frankly, Al Gore and his book are, to me, less of a Nostradamus situation and more of a, you just got it really wrong, dude. Like the COVID people who predicted at the beginning of the pandemic 2.5 years ago, oh, we're all going to die. Remember, they said that there would be millions of people all over the world who'd be dead. Not really. Overwrought, created huge anxiety, made people nervous. For what? Bullshit. So let's get our day off to the right start. 24th of June already. It's almost the end of the month of June. We've only got a little bit of that left. And it's really, this is the toughest part of winter from here until probably about a month and a half from here. Then, by August, mid-August, it's warm again. It starts getting better. It takes a while, but it starts getting better. So Ben will join us later on. I've got a couple of things to ask him about. I didn't realize this. Somebody posted this on Instagram and actually took a screenshot of it. The minimum wage is 23.19 Rand an hour, right? The petrol price is 23.85 Rand a liter. That means that the petrol price per liter is higher than the hourly minimum wage. You know how much you have to earn if you are in the minimum wage category just to get back and forth from home to work. We already know this is a problem in South Africa, right? We know domestic workers, laborers, people who often are they live very far away from home, from work. Those people are going to be screwed royally by this increased petrol price. And let me remind you again, the petrol price, and I'm not going to spend Friday mornings moaning. It's my half hour to kind of get a whole lot of things off the plate that we haven't yet got to eating. Let me remind you that the reason the petrol price has gone sky high is, yes, Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine, but everywhere else in the world, instead of continuing to look after their energy problems, they have been in the luxurious position where they've decided they'd listen to Greta Thunberg rather than their own energy demands. And it's so hilarious and ironic to me. Also came up in yesterday's Burning Platform. Germany, one of the countries that was leading at COP26, the guy from COP26 was here in South Africa yesterday. They were the ones who were saying, oh, no, we need to green our energy. Yeah, we need to make sure that we have less carbon emissions. We are going to use wind and solar. And now they're going back to coal-fired power stations like Kusile and Medupi. What's interesting is they just switch them back on again, and it just starts working. Not like us, where we have to spend 10 years building a power station, and then it costs 4 times the money, or probably more than that now, and delivers half the power that we expected. Tell me how that works. Anyway, I mean, I just think it's interesting that all of this fuel, this oil and gas stuff is partly Russia, but it's also very bad policy making by people in Western governments. I mean, America, again, I have to say, for anyone who's paying more at the petrol pump in America, you can thank Joe Biden fairly and squarely for that, because he closed down that pipeline, which would have brought oil from Canada and Alaska into America. He and also from Texas north, a major pipeline. They shut it down, also killing lots and lots of jobs, which has done great things for the American economy. Obviously, the dollar continues to be under huge pressure because of stupid decisions like this. Then they've shut down about 5 or 6 refineries in America over the last year and a half. Just the last year and a half. Now, those refineries take crude oil and turn it into petrol and various other petroleum products. Without the refineries, you have to rely on overseas countries to do it, which means you transport it there and transport it back after it's been refined. Not the most sensible way of doing these things. And if you bring it in directly and it's already refined, it just costs more. So someone needs to sit down with these idiots in Western governments who are making policy at the moment and say to them, do you actually know how pluses and minuses work? And I've never claimed to be good at arithmetic, but I understand supply and demand, and I think most of us do. We inherently have an ability to do this. So those are things that we need to talk about. I mean, Dogoza says, I filled up my tank this morning. It cost me 1,401 Rand. That is ridiculous. Crazy, right? Really, really bad. He was Puzang last night, so that's against the CrossFit religion. I don't know what you're talking about there, Vernon. I'm not sure who's CrossFitting, first of all. Okay, there's there's often these internal conversations in the comments section. I just wish you guys would form a WhatsApp group for those. Basitsana says, morning guys, does anyone know why we sometimes wake up so damn parched? I'm thirstier than a motherfucker. Aha, that is because you either drank last night or you ate food that was very, very salty. Sometimes the food pulls the water right out of your cells. Well, not the food does, but your body is trying to get water to process very salty food. And it's reverse osmosis. And a lot of that happens. So what you need to do is always go to sleep. I do this with a bottle of water next to your bed or a glass of water. I prefer a bottle. You can close the lid. But a glass of water next to your bed, essential every night before you go to sleep. Absolutely de rigueur. All right. I better take the advice of that person who said that they had a cure for the sneezing and the sinus in the morning. But I'll see if I can figure that out at some point. Did you get that tall monument thing I sent you, Congo Chris? No, I did not. And Venice is sinking. Yeah, but Venice has been sinking since long before Al Gore. Venice is built in a very precarious position, full stop. Since the 1500s, buildings have gone up and down, or rather the water level's gone up and down. And you can actually see that in paintings from the Doge's palace years and years ago. So nothing's changed in Venice. Let's not pretend that Al Gore hit on some nerve there. Chris goes on, the main problem is that rich countries are shifting the blame to poor ones, and the onus is also being shifted. Also, nuclear is the answer, but idiots keep standing in the way. Now, I couldn't agree with you more. Nuclear came up yesterday because we spoke to Karen Morn about her book called Nuclear, about the Russian nuclear deal that never did happen. And Karen made the very good point that this whole thing was so corrupt that it wasn't even worth discussing whether or not nuclear was the future. But it is. Nuclear is the cleanest, best way of producing the most power. I don't know if anybody remembers this. This is a long time ago, but there used to be a game called Sim City, and I'm not talking about the 23 versions that came after the original, but the original Sim City allowed you to build a city, right? And this should be standard practice for anyone who wants to go into government. They should first be able to win at a game like Sim City. And I mean, whether it's local, provincial, municipal, or national government, because it teaches you some very, very basic things at an early age. And it's such a great game. It's clever, it's strategic. You have to work out budgets. You have to figure out what policies to put in place to make you more money. If you run out of money, how you can tax people, what the absolute limit is for tax, the upper limit, the lower limit. And you only work these things out by actually adjusting them slightly and figuring it all out. But I remember I played this game I must have been in high school at least, because I don't really think it had been invented before then. And we never had a computer at home until, I was probably 18 when we first got a computer at home. So it must have been around then. Anyway, I remember working out this game. And one of the things that they taught us earlier on in the game is that you can build wind, you can build solar. I mean, they were thinking about these things already then. You can put up a coal-fired power station. You can put up a gas station. The best one was a nuclear reactor. It produced the most power. It was expensive to build, but once you had that, you didn't run out of power in the city. So basic, right? And if you play the game, you lay out roads, you put in water infrastructure, you have to make sure that you put residential, industrial, and commercial property there. It's the most brilliant, brilliant game. If they only allowed people who could demonstrate over a period of a week, you get a week to play the game before you get your government appointment. And then I say to you, okay, if you can't win at this game, you don't get employed by government. Sorry. I mean, it doesn't take, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to work a game out. Over a week, if you play from Monday to Friday, and that's your job interview, first of all, I think we'd get really interesting candidates, because it doesn't matter who you know or what, party you belong to or anything else. That would get all of that shit out of the way, first of all. Second of all, it would demonstrate that you have some idea of how to manage money. Third of all, how to manage a city. Fourth of all, that you could build things, that you actually understand how infrastructure works. Because we have lots and lots of people in the world today who they talk a good game. They've got ideas. They've been trained in law and philosophy and political science, and they can talk, but they can't build. And we need builders, especially in a country like South Africa. So I think that would be the best way to play this game, and to put this game to good use. Dogoza says it doesn't make sense. We don't get nuclear because we don't trust Zuma. Now we don't have nuclear, but we have load shedding. We're stuck. We should have just paid Putin. Well, we could have also done our nuclear through better people than Putin. It didn't have to go through the Russians, We used to have nuclear ourselves once. But what do? We mothballed all of it. We fired the best scientists. And we decided we were just going to cash out. I mean, don't build nuclear weapons, but keep nuclear power going? Seems like an obvious thing to me, alas. Anyway, City Skylines is the best current city builder by far. If you liked SimCity, you'll love City Skylines. Well, now you're talking about something. I'm not a gamer, but I would love, love, love to play one of those games again. In fact, I think I'm going to do it. Pebblebed nuclear is 100% viable for South Africa. Tracy says also the layout of a city, you shouldn't have a nuclear power plant right next to an elementary school. Yeah, it's not The Simpsons. Small modular reactors, absolutely. I went on a tour with the guys who were putting together the Pebblebed modular reactor. In fact, I've got one of the pebbles here somewhere in my house. Don't worry, there's no nuclear material in it, but it's a little graphite ball, effectively. And these would have been put out on a bed, and together they would have generated enough heat to warm water. the water would have boiled because of the heat of these pebbles. That would have produced enough steam to have powered a very small reactor. And this very small reactor, small as it may have been, would have probably done as much good as, a 7-hectare wind farm. So again, we just have our heads up our asses because politicians have made the decisions instead of us smart people. And yes, Kala says we have nuclear at Koeberg, 1,030 megawatts. Well, listen, I've heard some quite scary rumors about what's going on at Koeberg and whether or not it's working properly and what they're doing to keep it going. And I don't know the facts, so I'm not going to start an alarm. But I really think we need some very smart people to get in there and to check things out at Koeberg ASAP. Because this is the problem with nuclear, is if you put it in the hands of morons, they're bound to cause huge and devastating problems. Watch that brilliant movie, TV series, Chernobyl. What they lay out, more than the actual nuclear accident, which is horrifying, and the people who die of all the terrible diseases that come in the immediate aftermath and in the long tail of what happened at Chernobyl. The other scary thing is that you see how stupid socialist government in Russia was. And you realize how these communists just could not manage a piss up in a brewery. And it's so built in, it's so baked into the cake when you're a leftist or a communist or a socialist to lie. That's such a part of the essential ingredients of your utopian dream. You are forced to lie. You're forced to force other people to lie. Nobody believes anybody. It's a world of suspicion. Terrible, terrible environment for anybody who's just trying to ascertain whether something is good, bad, or ugly. And just the most terrific show. So again, they have to play SimCity. They have to watch Chernobyl, and then maybe we'll consider putting them in charge of things. Vernon says we should vote with the prerequisite that whoever runs the government has to take questions from journalists as a standard. We don't currently have a working democracy. Well, you could say that about a lot of things. I don't know, a lot of our journalists are so shit. So what would be the point? Have you seen some of the press conferences that are held in South Africa? It's not like, the White House press corps. It's not like we're dealing with the best of the best when it comes to journos either. And I stand up for journalists, but really, we've got a lot that are just absolutely terrible. Another great documentary to watch, according to Tracy, is 3 Mile Island. Oh, yeah. It's about the nuclear semi-disaster that happened on the East Coast in New Jersey, actually, of the U.S. Excellent docu, real events. That was before Chernobyl. Yes, and unfortunately, you see, when people think of nuclear, they don't think about all the power stations that are working all over the world that are producing plenty of clean, decent, reliable energy from nuclear power plants. They think about the 3 or 4 disasters that have happened. Fukushima, they think about Chernobyl, they think about 3 Mile Island, and they go, oh, we've got to stay away from nuclear. But again, we've become so risk averse, which is why you hear morons all over the world, and you heard a lot of it over the last 2.5 years, talking about safe. I don't feel safe. I want more safety from my government. These people have never read a history book. They don't know what progress looks like. Without a bit of risk, you don't get any rewards. Civilization isn't safe. Do you think that you would be flying in planes from one city to another if the Wright brothers had prioritized safety when they were inventing the Kitty Hawk? Do you think that the internal combustion engine, which was an enormously dangerous thing, do you think even the steam locomotive, the first trains, do you think that do you know how many people died making all those things happen? If safety was their priority, they would never have been invented. We would be sitting in a world where nothing had been invented if safety was our biggest priority. Oh no, safety comes much further down the line. Safety is a first world problem, and it is something that the first world feels entitled to. All over the human story over thousands of years, safety has been right at the back of the queue. And the people who prioritize safety 100, 200, 500 years ago died horribly because nobody took them seriously. Oh, don't do that. It's not safe. Or I don't feel safe. Oh, well, here come those marauding Mongols across the plains of Siberia. They're going to prioritize safety now. They're going to put down their big swords. They're going to stop chopping off people's heads. They're going to stop dashing children's brains across the walls of the village that they've just occupied. Safety is not a human priority. It never has been. And it's become a priority of a soft civilization, a civilization where everything is already working for us. It's not a priority in a country where you don't have the things that make civilization work yet. There are lots of those countries in the world. I beg to differ with the I don't feel safe crowd. So, again, you're going to build a nuclear power station. There may be some problems. They're very rare. They're far more rare than the problems you would have with any other kind of situation. But you have to have the right people in there, which means you can't have cadre deployment and politicians and diversity and inclusion people at the nuclear power plant. Because the diversity and inclusion people who say, well, I really think we should have more wheelchair employees and more people over the age of 80 running this nuclear power plant. That's where you end up with problems. Russia, right? Anyway, I mean, why are we complaining? We shouldn't worry. Joe Biden assures us that he has the most inclusive and diverse White House ever, even more than Barack Obama. He has a gay black woman as a press secretary. She's useless, but she's a gay black woman. So everything will be fine. This is the kind of stuff that gets us into trouble. I hate to say it because people don't like to hear it. Anyway, they feel shit scared when power runs out and they're guarding their life in the dark, Sean says, in caps. Like, I don't know what that means, but he does say, ha, 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 safe. So I think he gets the basic idea. G, have you seen what's happening in Beaufort West? No red tape. Go, Gayton. Yeah. I saw Gayton McKenzie 2 months ago. I had a quick chat to him, and he's meant to be coming on the show at some point on the Burning Platform. He is building solar, and he's also building toilets in the Karoo municipalities, where he's in charge, where the Patriotic Alliance have come into power. And he seems to be doing a very, very good job there. He's also harnessed a lot of private capital to do this, which I absolutely am convinced is essential, because there just isn't enough money if we don't ask private business to help lend a hand where we need to build infrastructure. Also, there'll be oversight of that money if private businesses are involved, and maybe we'll get more done. So yes, I have seen what Gayton McKenzie's doing there. It's terrific, and really we've got to talk to him, because that's what we need. It's people like him. So Congo Chris bringing up this well-known trope: tough men make easy times make soft men make difficult times make strong men. It's that circle. And yes, ladies, that is a very male-focused thing to look at. But really, if men don't provide a safe world, and I say safe this time with a different meaning, a secure world, then there is no place for women to take leadership roles. I know that's going to be controversial too. But if women are expected to run things, they need to run things in a world where men have fought for it to be safe, because otherwise women will be victims again of the horrible men, the weak men, the men who are abusers. We want to hear from you in the comments. Let us know what's going on. Take your thoughts on there. And yes, Ben is coming. He's coming, and Tokozo wants to know. He joins us at 6:30 on a Friday. So for the first half hour, you've got me. Sorry about that, if that's not what you were hoping for. But yes, Ben will join us probably in the next 4 or 5 minutes. So stick around. That's coming right at you. We also have a weekend ahead of us. So if you've got any cool plans for the weekend, tell us what those are. I want to hear what those are. All right. A couple of headlines that I do want to look at before we continue with any of these other discussions. Let's just have a look at what's going on in the news. And there is actually quite a lot of news. Not as much as, probably some people would like. And by that, I mean the coronavirus people who are upset. There are a group of people, believe it or not, who are upset that the government has dropped the regulations. They're genuinely upset. So we'll talk about this with Ben. But full capacity crowds at South African stadiums are allowed once more. The question is, will they have full capacity crowds? And I've got a controversial point of view about that, which we'll get to just now. Tiger Brands' closure of its canning factory. This is not good news. Puts 90 tons of peaches and apricots and pears at risk. Now, I mean, apart from the job losses that we're looking at there, masses of fruit as well as 90 tons of peaches, apricots, and pears in the Western Cape are at risk and will have nowhere to go following Tiger Brand's decision to close its Langeberg and Ashton canning factory. Between 70 and 90 tons of fruit spread across 2,250 hectares of canning orchards will be placed in jeopardy with limited alternative destinations available. Jacques Jordan, who is the CEO of the Canning Food Producers of South Africa Association, told the Business Insider that it associated financial losses no less than 1 billion rand with this decision. So Tiger Brands decided to close their canning factory 2 years ago. At the time, the company said it planned to focus on manufacturing and distributing everyday branded food and beverages, which is better aligned with its portfolio. If you read between the lines, what they're really saying is probably the margins are just not big enough. So why would they want to run a canning factory if it's expensive and it doesn't deliver the kind of profits that they want, right? Anyway, that plant has been running for over 70 years. It is the largest and one of only two in the country. I do not understand why a country like ours, we've got so many people who don't have jobs, and we have very little manufacturing going on, that we aren't. This is where policymakers could really do something. They've decided to shut this down. Now, I mean, I don't know what the number of jobs are that is going to go, but apparently it also has to do with an oversupply of peaches, believe it or not. Tins of peaches. So I don't know who's buying the peaches, but they're making too many of them, is apparently the thing. I don't know if that makes any sense to you. That's one of the things that I picked up in the news this morning. I know that doesn't sound like a big news story, but you think about the associated damage to the economy when one of your two big canning factories, the only two in the country, shut down. And we are dealing with a problem in the world of food supply at the moment. So this is interesting. Cabinet has green-lighted a draft strategy to formalize South Africa's 9.1 billion rand game meat sector. So Cabinet has decided to approve the publication of a draft strategy to transform the game market. Game meat is predominantly an informal industry that operates in a fragmented manner. The proposed strategy produces an implementation plan that will formalize and strengthen the sector as both a provider of food security and economic growth sector that can help create jobs. This is good news, I think. Although it depends on who's running it, right? Because a good idea in the hands of a moron will lead to trouble. So, according to the presentation, South Africa accounted for 86% of all regional game meat exports, valued at $12 million in 2019. It was also ranked 28th out of 98 countries globally in terms of exports of game meat. So they could be sorting this out. They could be making it worse. Who knows? And then I'm sure you saw the story. Can't get enough of this. And neither can the news media. The first case of monkeypox has reached South Africa's shores. Oh, the people who love panicking are panicking now. Imagine all those people who are like worried about, I don't feel safe. Those people are shitting in their pants over monkeypox. So here's a story from ENCA yesterday.
Dr. Joe Pasha today confirming that a case of monkeypox has been detected in the country. Monkeypox is a virus transmitted to humans from animals. There's been an outbreak of the virus in various countries around the world. South Africa's monkeypox patient zero is a 30-year-old man from Johannesburg in Gauteng.
Late yesterday, I received a report from the National Health Laboratory Service indicating that they have,
this is the minister, by the way,
through a laboratory test, the first case of monkeypox in South Africa. The patient is a 30-year-old male from Johannesburg who has no travel history, meaning that it cannot be attributed to the disease having been acquired elsewhere.
So we baked this one at home. Aren't you excited? There's monkeypox. This is so great. And you know that the people who love the masks and the people who love the sanitize and the people who love being told what to do, the safe people, those people are going to be excited beyond belief, even though they can't admit it, about monkeypox, because it means they can't wait for more rules to come into play. It's not. I put up a thing on my Instagram yesterday, which, I mean, you could disagree or agree with me on this, but let me read it to you because this is the gist of it. If you're sad that they stopped the mask mandate and the sanitizing and the rules about gatherings and all of that stuff, let me remind you, you can continue to wear your mask, sanitize, limit the gatherings that you go to. You don't have to stop doing that stuff. It's voluntary now, but you don't need government to force you to do it. And you don't need government to prevent other people from doing it. You can do whatever you like. I said there that there are masochists and there are people with Stockholm syndrome who behave like slaves, even though slavery was abolished in the 1800s. The fact that you might be one of those people who insists that everyone else live according to your dystopian view of the world is all the proof that we need that you should never be put in charge of anything ever again. And that's true, right? Again, monkeypox may or may not be a big problem that we have to deal with. I would prefer to make my own decisions, having seen how badly all of the decisions that everybody we trusted, the experts, the politicians, what bad decisions they made. Right? Let's trust them again. Not going to happen. I don't know if you saw this really horrible story about, I think it's the KZN transport MEC who was killed in an accident because of potholes on a rural road in KZN. People went ballistic on social media. Again, I'm quoting now from hearsay, so don't take this as verbatim, but it would appear to me that there's very little sympathy in this case for this politician who lost her life because of a pothole-riddled road. And some of our roads are so bad that you could write your car off. You could do yourself and other people severe damage. And yes, you could die. It's no surprise to me that there are places where you cannot drive on the roads anymore safely. I think it's sad and unfortunate that this person had to lose their life, as it would be for anyone to lose their life. But it seems to me on social media, there's no sympathy at all. People are like, yeah, well, you made these roads shit, so you kind of deserved this, which is an awful, awful way for people to respond. But it is how they're responding. You can't tell people how to respond. They just do. So that's worth thinking about. Anyway, a lot of people talking about monkeypox now. I honestly, I don't care. I mean, Yonda says, that is so stupid what that idiot said, that minister, Joe Pahla. Just because you didn't travel doesn't mean you didn't come into contact with someone who did travel. Well, yes. Nobody knows, right? I mean, this person they could have walked past someone, brushed against them, and have picked up some disease. This is what happens to people. This is how diseases spread. I love the fact that in 2022, we have to review all of plague history. There's already enough information about this stuff. Let's stop being stupid. Lots of comments about monkeypox. The only thing that some of the potholes in South Africa needs, the only thing is that some of the potholes in South Africa need helicopters to fill them. Yeah, that's probably true, Derek. A good point. Geez, there's a road that goes out towards the Hartbeespoort Dam, and I drove out there on Sunday. We've got an old family farm there, and we don't own it anymore, but it's there. And there's an old family graveyard on it that I just have to go and check on occasionally with the parents, because no one else is going to maintain it, right? So you have to look after these things. And on the road there, I was thinking about maintenance, because this is what we're going to go and do at the graveyard. And then we saw this road that you have to take to get there is just an absolute disaster. It marries back into this story about nuclear, by the way, because it's the road that goes right past and would have been the main entrance to the Pelindaba reactor and all of those other once top secret, once top line institutions, buildings, infrastructure. That place used to be probably one of the most difficult places to get into, one of the most well-maintained places. The fact that the road outside of it is crumbling to pieces, and I think about this MEC, it all kind of marries into the story around if you don't look after things, they go backwards. What was Chinua Achebe? Things fall apart, right? And again, I mean, if you've never read that book, it's an award-winning book by a Nigerian author. Just the most brilliant analysis of how many things do not stay in place, do not maintain their resilience, do not maintain their effectiveness, do not keep working unless you work very hard at making sure that the pieces stay together. Those things don't just happen, I'm afraid. Anyway, lots of really interesting stuff going on. Onkopotse says, no potholes in Cape Town. Ooh, now careful, Onkopotse, because you say that and people will say, but you're just working for the DA, aren't you? Yeah. We do need new roads nationwide, says Keenan, but do you know what will happen, right? We'll all be charged more money for that, even though it should have been part of what was done over the last, I don't know, 25 years. Did we really think that the roads would just stay as they were? The lifespan of a pothole in Cape Town, and especially Somerset West, isn't very long. Once you've been in Joburg and other parts, you really appreciate the state of the roads here. Okay, so Cape Town is winning at potholes. I've been to the reactor at Pelindaba, says Boiled Prawn Shack. It was still working in 2004. Not too sure what's happening there now. I went out and checked it in 2014, and they're currently using that reactor for coloring gemstones, a little bit of research. They do some work with the universities, but really, we should be putting that thing to better use. And again, if we have qualified and capable people to run it, it should be a source of great national pride, of research and development, and of national utility, frankly. Whether it's not designed, that reactor is not designed to generate electricity, but it could be, on this continent, one of very few nuclear resources for science and technology, which, this is the stuff that puts certain countries at the forefront of innovation. What are we doing? We're coloring topaz gemstones in our reactor. Anyway, I mean, it's better than nothing, I suppose. Yonder says, I'd have to say that in Joburg and Durban and East London, potholes are a real thing. And in Cape Town, we hardly see much except in areas that are managed by other parties who fix it. Cape Town wins at all province roads. I've lost loads of tires in every province. Fucking potholes. Yeah. Sunmarie says, what's the Nigerian author's name again? Chinua Achebe. Achebe. Look him up. Cape Town is a paradise. I ride a bike. Okay, all right, stop. Thank you. Enough of the boasting about Cape Town, if you don't mind. I would quite like you to stop telling us how great Cape Town is. It's making me feel a bit sick. I think I have the monkeypox. One other last headline I want to throw in here. A man, this is so gross. A man contracted a new antibiotic-resistant super gonorrhea strain after having sex on holiday. An Austrian man caught a new strain of gonorrhea that is resistant to common treatments. He had unprotected sex with a sex worker in Cambodia, according to scientists. If such strains keep spreading, many gonorrhea cases might become untreatable, they said. Dun, dun, dun. An Austrian man who had sex abroad caught a new strain of so-called super gonorrhea that is resistant to most antibiotics, commonly used to treat the infection. Super gonorrhea? Jesus. The worry they've got here is that if multi-drug resistant strains of gonorrhea keep spreading, the STD might become untreatable, according to the authors of a case report that was published on Thursday in the medical journal Eurosurveillance. Most cases of gonorrhea don't produce symptoms, but can still cause serious complications such as infertility if it's not possible to treat the infection. So some serious problems that you could develop if you sleep with Cambodian sex workers. Just saying, not necessarily the best way to conduct yourself. All right, a lot of people talking about how the roads would be better if we had a better train system. Now heavy trucks do all the transporting. That's also true. I mean, a lot of these trucks are a big, big problem, and that's why the roads are, devastated and keep deteriorating at the rate that they are. Imagine the burn on the super gonorrhea pee, says Stevie. Oh God. I've never had. Thank God, I've never had an STD, and I know that that's courting disaster because everybody eventually gets like simplex herpes or whatever it is. But if I did and it burnt when I peed, oh man, I wouldn't know what to do with that. Anyway, isn't gonorrhea a symptom of too much bum sex? I'm not sure. As far as I understand, gonorrhea is something that you can get from conventional penile and vaginal sex. I'm not sure. We'll need to ask somebody. Oh, wow. Look at this. Slice 19 says they found one of the biggest helium deposits in the world near Velkom. They're busy building a factory at the site now. You should see the old pothole-ridden road to get there. Wow. Okay. Simpiwe, will you just check on Ben? I see he's trying to get onto the stream here, but there's nothing there. See, Simpiwe, you can just check with Ben where he is. I don't know what's going on with the internet there. I was just disconnected as well. See if we can get him on. Durban CBD has really deteriorated. However, the North Coast infrastructure is really good. It's like two different worlds. Well, I suppose where the money is. Play on words, Gareth. Gonorrhea. Yes, I get you. Thank you. I just honestly thought you were asking a serious question because I can never tell with people in the comment sections. You guys are all insane. So there are lots of questions here coming up about that. I'm sorry I had to start your morning with potholes and gonorrhea and nuclear power, but hey, you've got to start the day somehow. These are not the worst things to talk about. They're all interesting. Here's an interesting one. This is why you should not let Joseph Fritzl out of jail. The dirty Austrian probably gave her the disease. Maybe, hey? Might not have been the Cambodian sex worker. It might have been the Austrian. Austrians, they don't have a great track record for this kind of thing. Chris Rea has joined Dire Straits. Now they're called Diarrhea. Oh, God. All right. Propaganda's on fire this morning. I mean, with a name like Propaganda, what do you expect? Okay, so apparently also some people talking about PE and how shit that is at the moment. Well, they have they've got serious water problems in PE right now. They've passed day zero, and it apparently is just not a great situation. So that rain that we got here in Joburg last night, I hope PE got a little bit of that too. And if they didn't, that there is some on the way in the next while. By the way, I don't know if you've been watching Bitcoin, $21,000 this morning. Not great, but edging slightly up of where it was. I mean, who would have said it would hit $20,000 back in the glory days when we were at $60,000? Really and truly, it's so disappointing. I don't know what anybody else is doing, but you just got to hold on to it, right? If you bought some, even if it's just a little bit, the last thing you want to do is try and sell now, because you'll make such a loss. Pretty much, if you bought anywhere in the last 6 months, you would be in disaster territory now. In fact, the last 2 or 3 years, even, I think that's the lowest it's dropped to in a long, long time. So yeah, I think that's something really, really interesting about the whole Bitcoin thing. A lot of people climbing back in is what people are saying. And Dogozo is saying it too. Sounds like a good time to get into some Bitcoin. Well, let's see. Let's see. I don't know what's going on with Ben. He's trying to join the stream, but it's just not working. Simpiwe, again, I don't know if there's something wrong on my side or if it's on Ben's side, but it's now like 6:45, and I think he's been trying for about 10 minutes to get in. All right, a few of the comments. I just want to play you this quickly, or rather show you this. I had no idea about this. Perhaps you did. These are some of the LGBTQIA plus flags, all right? So the only one that I can honestly say I knew was a LGBTQIA plus flag was the one in the top left, the gay flag, which is a rainbow. I always knew the rainbow flag was the gay flag. Apparently, bisexuals have this pink, purple, violet combination. I'm not going to go through all of them, but there are all kinds of different flags here: gender fluid, gender queer, transgender, non-binary, intersexual, bear. I don't know what that means. Autosexual, trigender. I mean, you literally, these things have just been made up like yesterday. But the interesting one is near the bottom left there, the lesbian flag. Now, I had no idea the lesbian flag was a battle axe. This is supposedly the lesbian flag. It's purple. It's got an upside down, or rather a V shape, black piece in it. And then on that is a white battle axe with a double blade. Now, I didn't know that was the lesbian flag. Did you? And if you did know this, why didn't you tell us long ago? I don't know if lesbians are courting disaster here by asking for, a battle axe on their flag. Like, you old battle axe used to be a pretty horrible insult that you would level at somebody. So I'm not sure what that means, whether or not that's always been their symbol. But there it is. Look at that. Read 'em and weep. The flag that you should have if you're a lesbian is this, the battle axe. Hey, Ben.
Hey, Gareth. Sorry, man. Fucking
What happened?
technology. Apologize. I don't know. Just my
What
laptop's not interested in being on the show. I'm like backstage, but no one can see me. Ghost mode.
Very
Sorry.
annoying. Anyway, did you know that the lesbian flag was a battle axe?
Well, I mean, it should be really. I'm a lot more alarmed that you don't know what the bear is. We all know what the bear is.
But isn't that just like a gay man, a big burly gay man?
Yes. Yes.
Do they have their own flag? Why do they have a flag for that? That's a sexual preference or a fetish, isn't it? It's not an identity.
It's not a fetish.
Or is it an identity?
It's completely an identity. You've got to groom yourself. You've got to be hairy. You've got to be big. You've got to, you've got to be a bear.
I remember, didn't we send Michael Flax to some event where like a whole bunch of bears were and he met
Well,
them
he was
and
meant to go to Bear Fest, and then he pussied out in the last minute.
Bear
He's like,
Fest.
no, I can't go there.
Yeah.
That would have changed his life
Yeah.
for the better.
Bear Fest, that's right. So that's now an identity that needs its own flag. That's like like if you're Filipino, then you get your Philippines flag because you're from the Philippines. If you're South African, you get the South African flag. Now you need a flag if you're a bear. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's only fair, right? I really, I mean, if we're gonna take one thing out of today, let it be that I'm all for bear rights.
Bear rights. Just when you, if you can, just hold your microphone away from the zip of your top there because it keeps rubbing against it, making a horrible noise.
Sorry, man. See, because I don't like using my phone because I don't have headphones that Bluetooth onto my phone. But anyway, sorry, it's not going well.
Right.
It's not going well. How's your day otherwise?
My day's great. I started off at 5 a.m. as I always do, and things are looking good. I've got a nice quiet weekend ahead of me, so we'll see how it goes. I'm not looking at leaving the house. It's been bloody freezing this week, so wherever possible, stay warm. I did want to talk about this with you. So Ben and I had a brief conversation on WhatsApp during the week about this thing that happened at the Stormers game. They got a bunch of dancers.
Still went over this.
This is really annoying me because I'm not a rugby fan. I have no say in this. I don't know what's been happening on the rugby field for, I don't know, the last 10 years. I haven't been paying attention. I know it was a Stormers game. I know it was fairly well attended. I know that the Stormers are a good rugby team, but they had these guys come onto the field in Stormers rugby uniforms. So I thought it was the players because someone sent me a clip, right? I don't watch the game. And what they have is they have this pom-pom girl, or whatever you call it, cheerleader, and she starts the dance, and then suddenly all the supposedly Stormers rugby players, but they're actually professional dancers, start dancing like they're on a parade or something, or like they're at Babylon on a Saturday night, right? I mean, is this what happens at these games now? Is this the kind of entertainment that is put on at the rugby now? Because the rugby's not enough? What is
Gareth?
this?
There's always been. Oh, it must you. God, this is you love this so much.
But it's so embarrassing. It's so shit, Ben. It's really shit. I don't love it. I hate this. I can't understand why rugby's doing this. I thought rugby was enough entertainment on its own for people who liked rugby. You know, the crowd who liked the dancing and the crowd who liked the rugby are very different crowds, or am I wrong?
No, Gareth, you must understand that sport is entertainment, right? So they have to do things that are every other live thing does. And because of what TikTok has done for making people dance for China, dancing is just ubiquitous now with going outside.
Well, here it is. So this is the clip that was sent to me on WhatsApp, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on? Is this what rugby is like?" I thought these were the players. All right, so understand, I'd never seen any of this, and then suddenly I'm watching what I suppose are rugby players because it looks like them. They're wearing the uniforms with numbers on the back and everything. I'm like, "What is the?" They've been spending time choreographing this dance rather than practicing rugby.
Wow, you can really dance. Wow, you can really dance. He went. They said we've both been dancing all this time. What a coincidence. My money don't jiggle jiggle. Oh, so you bring your wiggle. For sure, make me want to dribble dribble. You know, riding in my feet, you really have to. Let's keep it going. Hit it, Berkey.
I don't understand that at all. Maybe I'm just very old-fashioned and I haven't been in the loop for a long time, and I get that TikTok has changed everything. But to me, that stuff's it's weird that it would be at a rugby match.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, a couple of things. If you ever see a number six, if you ever see a number 6 moving like that, firstly, he's too small. He's far too rhythmic. Because if you wear a number 6, you're an open side flanker, and you are a burly, bruised man. But yeah, I will agree with you on a certain degree. I think there should be something sacred about a sporting uniform / kit, and that right should be given to the players only. When you get people dancing in, like, can you imagine for the Bok match next weekend if they're going to pull that shit? When people who dedicate their entire lives to wear a Bok jersey on the field of play are now twerking and gyrating pelvic areas, that would be bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that there was some kind of there's some kind of honor in wearing a uniform of any kind. It means you've attained. You've earned
it's basically
that uniform.
So what they're doing is that stolen valor. You remember that big thing in America when it was cool to be like a soldier or a fireman, and guys were literally dressing up just to get the trim at the bars. They'd pull in there, thank you for your service.
Well, I mean, here's Ntogoza says, does that not have anything to do with Pride Month? That's what I was thinking. No,
that's just
no disrespect. Jesse says, what the fuck was that? Correct. What a circus. They were throwing out bread as well, were they? Corona's Boring says. Yeah, well, that's where, as Ben says, the entertainment element of this comes in.
Yeah, it has to be. Gareth, the important thing is, feminizing men is still a top priority. Yeah, I get that. But the important thing is that we can now go back to stadiums, and the stadiums can be full. You don't have to have any of that stupid, where's your pass stuff? I know there was another name to it, but essentially that was the function government were doing. So you can actually, as a civilian, Gareth, next weekend, as a civilian, I'm going to board the Gautrain. I'm going to go and walk the streets of Pretoria and go into Loftus, a place where many men have got drunk before. And I'm going to stand in the stands with my fellow South Africans, all 50,000 of us. And we're just going to cheer and shout for sport.
Are you going to be on the Oos Paviljoen? Because that's where the real action goes down, Ben.
Well, that's where action goes down. I mean, look, I'm a bit old for that. Only too much fun at one stage, Gareth. Let's not overdo it.
Sponiso says, and he's quite right to criticize me here. That's why I brought this up. Why are you so bothered? You don't like rugby anyway. Yeah, that's true. But he goes on to say, there is nothing sacred about gym gear. Fat guys in Centurion wear it all the time. That's true. I mean, Ben, if we're going to criticize people for twerking and doing the rest of it in like the rugby uniform, then really we should criticize ordinary fat South Africans who wear them on a Friday for what was that sport thing that we did for a couple of years where we'd all wear our sports kit on a Friday?
Yeah, but I mean, that's just the shirts. That's just the shirt. You're not putting the fucking shorts and socks on and the boots and getting onto the field, are we? It's a bit different. So there's a saying that it comes from cricket. It's called full kit wanker. And what guys used to do is sometimes they would actually dress up in full whites to go watch Test cricket. And some of them, after a few beers, would then try to take the field. And then that's where the term full kit wanker came from. So it's one thing wearing just the jersey. But if you're going to full kit wanker it, you're crossing boundaries. And that's why the term is there as a deterrent to people.
Hey, listen, as I said, it's not really any of my business. I didn't understand it when I saw it on my phone. I was like, is this for real? Sebastian says, I don't watch rugby, but these guys dancing are funny. Gareth is a grumpy fuck. Okay.
Oh, Sebastian, you should have heard it. Sebastian, you should have heard when this story first came out from his lips to my unneeded ears. He was irate. He couldn't believe this. What we just got now on air was the sanitized casual version.
Oh, please. Because I get enthusiastic about something doesn't mean it's I've been fixating on it for a whole fucking week. Someone
Gareth,
sent me this clip and I was like, what has happened to rugby? Because I'm not paying attention every day.
You fixated for about 48
right?
hours and then you unleashed on me.
Oh, bullshit. Oh, please.
I've seen you have more mild rants about the ANC, COVID, and stupidity than you have about the Stormers' male dancers.
Well, no, that's not true. I've been bitching and moaning about masks all of this week, and even though they've now got rid of them, there are still people who are irritating me about that. And now, of course, the news outlets are all talking about monkeypox, so we're not going to go down that street. But I get upset about things.
Yeah,
what are they
fine,
called?
But so yesterday I made a point listening to radio because I wanted to hear what the general sentiments around this kind of stuff, and all these cocksucking fucking presenters. I'm sorry, my language is so coarse there, but these are the people that were like Team COVID for 2 years because obviously they were getting paid. And now suddenly they're on this sort of cardboard high horse, but the mask, that should have been done a long time ago. Shut your whole mouth. You were the first person to talk about boosters. You're the first person to, why can't we all just get vaxxed already? And now they reckon governments, they just dragged their heels on this, didn't they? Shut your mouth. But it was quite funny because obviously there's now a gap in the news. There's a gap in hysteria. And on Jacaranda yesterday, because I like listening to Afrikaans for some reason.
It makes me Jacaranda, hey? Wow.
I do. I always listen to it because I just like hearing Afrikaans. It's very weird. Because I can semi-understand it, so I don't understand enough to be bored, but I understand enough to know what's going on. That's the key to listening to radio. Don't ever listen to it in your mother tongue. And there was a big story about Aapokse, which is just because Afrikaans obviously is its own language. So monkeypox, Aapokse. And then, they played. Then they play that, and then they play this really awkward sound bites of that health minister basically telling people not to be prejudiced against men who have sex with men because that's not actually how you get the Aapokse. And it was just the funniest 2 minutes of radio, PC-ness and Afrikaansness rolled into one, and bum sex. It was just great.
That's hilarious. Oh my God. This is what Aapokse is, huh? Aapokse, what a name. Jesus. All right. Well, it's 7 o'clock now, so we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in a moment or two. CliffCentral.com, the Gareth Cliff Show. It is Friday morning. Hope your day is off to an awesome start. We'll see you in a second.
Every time you listen to that 80s show, Tom Cruise lives another 10 years. Every Friday on CliffCentral.com, Paolo and Dory review movies, reminisce about old songs, remember childhood places that are now car parks, and say some outrageously rude things about Patrick Swayze's brother. That 80s show, new episode every Friday, live or as a podcast on CliffCentral.com.
Oh, that's hilarious. They go to these places that used to be car parks. They're now car parks that used to be places they hung out. Oh, that's hilarious. All right. It is Friday morning, and Ben and I are here to look after you. Is that a Terrence and Philip hat that you got on?
No, it's my golf hat. I'm going to play golf late this morning. So, getting into it, Gareth.
Like Terrence and Philip from South Park, the Canadians, they used to wear a T and a P hat. Yeah. Exactly like that one. And their whole cartoon was, hey, Terrence, I'm going to fart. And then Philip would go, and he'd go, and then you fart now, Terrence. And Terrence would go, and they'd go, that was the whole show. It was fantastic. Real higher grade stuff.
Well, it was always so funny how in South Park, the Canadians are always different because their heads actually opened up. So you could always tell a Canadian, because whenever they spoke, they just the top part of their head just lifted from the bottom part.
Right, exactly. Oh my God! All right, so you're actually excited about the stadiums opening up again. I mean, this is something that was a stupid rule from the beginning because we didn't need to lower the number of people in a certain venue at a certain time. It made fuck all difference whether there were 50 or 100. Obviously, the sports business, and this is part of what you do in your podcast, you discuss all of this stuff. Sports business has probably never been as bad as it has in the last 2 years. It's never been worse for sports in the world than it was in the last 2 years. The things that had to happen, the whole way that we watched, we behaved, we enjoyed, we didn't enjoy sport, it all changed. And now you reckon it's going to go back to where it was, or is that going to take a long time?
Well, what people sometimes forget is that pre-COVID, local sport here was not in a great place. People weren't exactly flocking to the stadiums. Yeah. You watch PSL games, there have been about 19 people. You watch local rugby games, even in Super Rugby, when the Bulls weren't so great, there was like a turn of people. And cricket domestically, nobody watches that, not even family members, which is quite awkward. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be this miraculous thing. I think people have definitely missed it. And, since... I don't know what the criteria was, if you had to have a vaccination or a booster shot or whatever shit that was. But you could go back to stadiums quite recently, but there hasn't been a full stadium. And the Springboks haven't been seen live. When you think about it, they won the Rugby World Cup in 2019. Next Saturday is the first time that South Africans, their true fans, can actually see them in the flesh as world champions. It's like 2.5 years of not playing in front of your own supporters, which is very weird. So Loftus next weekend, the Bryce smoke, the amount of brandy that is going to get clapped. Yeah. It's just going to be, I mean, it's going to be one of the joys. It's going to be like Rugby World Cup 1995 all over again, because people haven't been able to do this. All this pent up Bok emotion. Our team is great. We're playing Wales, so we should win. Yeah, Gareth, I'm so hugely excited. And the fact that, okay, I mean, like, I'll never give government any credit whatsoever, because the people that take away the things should not be given credit for giving them back. But this whole thing about having to even have, so there's no need for a vaccination certificate. There's no need for a stupid PCR test, whatever it is. You literally go there as a civilian with a ticket that you bought with your money, and you gain access to a place. Now, isn't that weird? How what I just described there is an absolute luxury.
Yeah, this is the stupidity of the world we live in at the moment. Now you're meant to celebrate stuff that we had just 3 years ago and we didn't think about. There's an interesting question here. Somebody wants to know, Ben, Carl says, Ben, it's so nice to hear that those cold showers have helped your cough. Yeah.
Carl, that's probably a joke for last week when I had flu. So, yeah, well done. I mean, the thing about comedy is all about timing. So keep it up.
Someone, when we were talking about South Park just now, Kyle's brother was Canadian for some reason. Yes, they adopted him, I think. Kyle.
He was.
And then Kyle's mom. Congo Chris brings up Kyle's mom's a bitch, a big fat bitch, biggest bitch in the whole wide world, stupid bitch, bitch, all boys and girls, something like that. That was a great song too. Yes, those are the glory days of South Park. I haven't watched it for a long time. Is it still going?
I watched it last year. It still is good. It's just that everything's moved on now. When South Park started, there was no real internet, so they were the only ones who were saying certain things. Whereas now, because of WhatsApp groups and everything else that we expose our dark, dirty, sensitive humor to, that kind of stuff's everywhere. But South Park were the original, the best, and the fact that they're still going is amazing. Trey Parker and Matt Stone, those two are absolute geniuses. They really are.
I have not been to a theater for years, but the only time I made an exception was to go and watch their show, which was called, what was it? God, I've just forgotten what it is now.
The Book of Mormon.
It was basically Book of Mormon. Thank you. Book of Mormon. God, that was funny. That was the only time I've genuinely enjoyed the theater in my life. I mean that. There was a time where I tried to enjoy that stuff, but just like rugby, it's not for me. And then that one show, Book of Mormon, I loved that. I suppose
I really think
like
they should make that into a movie.
Oh, it would be amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right. So apparently a lot of people saying that there are new South Park movies. There's a new South Park special that's come out. Terrence and Philip have girlfriends called the Queef Sisters. Oh, great. Okay. That's terrific. Biden announced, going off script accidentally, the U.S. needs to raise money right now to fund the next pandemic lockdown, as the last one wasn't that successful. They're not even hiding it anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if that's true. I don't know whether that's true or not. I sent you the story yesterday about these two parents who had to take the kids out of a school in San Francisco. I just want to quickly refer to this because I think it's interesting what's happening in America, because it could have repercussions for the rest of the world. You know, they sneeze, we all get a cold. These two parents took their kids out of, or were forced to take their kids out of San Francisco school because the school is basically teaching gender theory to these kids, and the whole concept of whiteness, and basically that they're going with all the leftist tropes, and the school is implementing them, and it seems that the board of the school are right behind this. And these parents were like, hang on a second, my 8-year-old just came home and is suddenly gender confused. That wasn't the case when they left for school yesterday morning. That was the case when they came home from school yesterday afternoon. I know that there's a big fuss being made about this because it's such a cultural issue in America, but I think homeschooling, which I always used to think was such an embarrassing, weird thing. I knew kids who'd been to homeschools or been homeschooled, and I always thought they were weird and outliers, and they didn't necessarily develop social skills and all of that stuff. I'm looking at it now thinking maybe that's the safer route for parents. If you don't want your kids to be indoctrinated in bullshit anymore, especially in America, not so much a problem here. But the best thing might be to actually just take them out of the school system completely. Do you agree with that?
I totally agree. Take them out of the school system and teach them martial arts as well, rather than gender studies. No, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I just think that the more this happens, the more we realize that teachers are becoming, well, again, I always hate saying this because it makes it sound old, it makes it sound grumpy, but journalists used to have integrity. Teachers used to have integrity. Doctors used to have integrity. But they all sort of get corrupted by this woke bullshit. Like, we saw doctors just turning on a dime when all their beliefs during COVID, they suddenly all started thinking the same way. And groupthink is a very dangerous thing. Same with these teachers now. The moment there's any sort of conflict, because we all know all this woke stuff, people are very aggressive. That's why the woke can never be reasoned with, because they're very aggressive, just unsavory people. So this whole gender thing is being like hurled into them. There's no discussion. It's just absolute aggression. And teachers are just going with the wind. So all they're thinking is like, well, I'm just going to tell this little shit anything until 2:00 and I get to go home and drink Chardonnay, so I don't care what it is. But that laziness is now developing so many social problems.
See, I don't mind if adults are busy trying to indoctrinate each other, because if you're stupid enough to fall for really bad ideas, then you deserve it.
Go for it.
I do have a problem. I have a problem with kids being, and I say this as a non-parent, but if you're busy putting bad ideas that are not true, that are anti-science, that are dangerous, frankly, and that will probably result in the kid who's absorbing that shit being less happy than when they didn't know about it. I think that's a kind of abuse. I don't think that that's good, and we shouldn't allow anybody, teachers, parents, nobody should be doing that to children. It's just cruel. It's cruel. Kids are going to have to put up with a lot growing up in the world of the 2020s. They're going to have to grow up with social media and bullying and pressure and competition from people all over the world. It's not this cocoon cotton wool world that some people want to imagine it is. Hard to be a parent too. What you don't need as a parent is to have some nefarious ideologue who is masquerading as a teacher, inputting really stupid ideas into your kids' heads while they're still soft. You wouldn't tolerate that if someone was trying to indoctrinate your child into a religion. You wouldn't tolerate that if they were trying to indoctrinate your kid into a cult. I interviewed these two women this week who were part of that cult in KwaZulu-Natal, the KwaSizaBantu mission, where they make that Ekwele water. And there was that huge story. It was turned into an award-winning podcast by News 24 about this mission, which is actually just it's like a religious concentration camp, really. There's no two ways about it. And these two women escaped.
And they bottle water?
Well, it's part of their business. That's how they fund the thing. So they make that water. And you can hear the interview. We're going to put it on next Monday. And I'm surprised that we still have this kind of stuff happening in 2022, where there's information available about, how to not, what things you should not do in a civilized society. And yet these things are happening. I mean,
no, but
Ruth says,
for example, I've got to stop you there. I've got to stop you there before we get to Ruth's message. Of course it's happening because people all search for belonging. And common sense and anything out of the window. Like, cults have been around forever and ever because they prey on people who are losers, who need association. That'll never change. That's just a human thing. People are lonely and worthless. They need to have some sort of association. Like and the thing is, like, you always give sport shit, but a far better part of the spectrum is guys putting on jerseys on a Friday and coming together because at least they can have some sort of association where they feel something. But they're not going to cults.
No, I don't have a problem with that at all, Ben. I just choose not to be a part of it. I choose not to be a part of a lot of things because belonging is exactly the opposite of what I'm interested in, as you know.
I know. I'm exactly the same as you on that. But
you put up an interesting thread. I think this was on Twitter, but maybe you can explain. So it's from someone called Lou. And I want to go through this just bit by bit, and then you can comment on it if you'd like in the YouTube comments, and we want to hear what you have to say. This guy starts off, or girl, I'm not sure if it's a guy or a girl, says, some of you have done nothing. It's a woman. All right. So Lou says, some of you have done nothing with your life, and you're mad. You have a college degree and a smartphone with access to virtually anything, and you could barely get out of bed in the morning while you spit on people who built a whole world with nothing but a horse, a map, and an axe. You've made nothing with access to everything. You've conquered nothing. Hell, you can't even conquer yourself. So go tear it all down. Scream into the void about how unfair it all is. It's not that you've wasted your short time here. Surely not. Carries on. This is all in a thread, right? Don't bother with your own legacy. You're busy shitting on the long dead who aren't here to care. Go and burn down every Starbucks. That'll show them. Torch the Target. Tear down every monument. Deface every memorial. But what have you built? What have you left behind? So take your benzodiazepine. Watch your porn. Get Uber to drop off your dinner. Buy an adult coloring book. Have sex with strangers to ease your crippling anxiety. It's not you. It's the system. It isn't fair. Go and cancel someone. Dox someone. They deserve it. You're the good guy. Don't write an epic novel worth building a statue to remember you. Go and troll 7-year-old problematic tweets. Ever on the hunt for a boogeyman. See, now you've accomplished something. Cancel everyone. You're a warrior now, a real hero. And lastly, whatever you do, never ever take a moment to self-reflect on your own failures. Never own them. Never take a hint of responsibility. Remember, you're just a helpless victim of circumstances beyond your control. This all means nothing. It's like you weren't even here. I mean, if that isn't screaming into the howling wilderness of so many people's misery, I don't know what is. What do you make of that? You
I just think
you put it on the internet. I saw it on your feed, so you agree with it.
Yeah, of course, and I think it brings up so many good points. But I like whatever Lou's put in there as a thread. We talk about this kind of stuff on an ongoing basis in the show, which brings you to the conclusion that as a race, as society, we have unfortunately peaked, and therefore we don't know what to do. That's why all this gender crap's coming in. It's the end of civilization as we know it. It really is. It might not mean that we're all just going to be set on fire and there's going to be a meteor hitting the planet, but we as a human species has completely peaked. Like if you look at our days today, Gareth, we don't need to do anything. We can gladly sit at home. The world will carry on. If in about 100 years ago, if say we didn't go out, then I don't know, barbarians would have raided our village and raped our women, or a road wouldn't have been built, or cows wouldn't have been sort of like killed so nobody would have eaten. Nothing will change if any of us, except for doctors maybe, stay at home today. Nothing. So we have pretty much pointless lives. We really do. Obviously, there's another extreme. Like we can still be good about that. We can still be decent people. We can still try to find ways of adding. But ultimately, we've peaked. I mean, what else do we need as humans? Nothing. That is why we sit at home watching TV and ordering food that makes us fat, because humans don't need to do anything anymore. Always comes down to that. So this whole bitching about gender thing is because you've got nothing else to do, because there's nothing else to do.
Yeah. I see a lot of people whose lives, I was talking to a friend of mine and she was saying that she went out for dinner with somebody this week. And this guy he kept sending the food back, complaining that, the chips weren't crispy enough, or that the steak wasn't done to exactly the level of cooked or raw that he preferred. And he was complaining that the lettuce wasn't the right kind of lettuce. I thought about it. I thought, somewhere in that story is somebody who's just like, they're looking for a purpose. They don't have a reason to live at the moment. So this becomes the purpose, because we live in such a civilized, such a fine-tuned, such a comfortable world. Some people anyway. I mean, there are lots of people in the world who do not, and God bless them, because they'll actually have character and personality. But if you send food back to the kitchen 2 or 3 times, like, you don't really have a reason to live. You've exhausted the purpose of a life. Even if you have other things that still excite you, the fact that that's become the thing that you want to be known for, that's the thing that you are comfortable in inflicting on a restaurant staff. It drives me crazy.
Well, you're also stupid, because by the second time round, they're all spitting on that.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. I think that's what's going to happen. All right. Well, we're going to meet Thapelo Mokoena, who's well known to people in South Africa. He's a well-known SAFTA award-winning South African actor. He's also been known as Quinn in Trackers, Fatini in Wild at Heart, William in Bulletproof, JK in Ayeye, and Axe in Nothing for Mahala, among other things. He's a Sotho man raised by a Zulu mom, born in a small town called Ladysmith under the Mkamba tree on his way to hospital. This is a beautiful story. He's also from the same town that boasts the birth of the legendary Ladysmith Black Mambazo, who went on to make us proud all over the world, Sugar Boy Malinga, Menzi Ngubane, and a whole lot more. In addition to his work as an actor, Thapelo is also a wine producer, a restaurateur, so we can ask him about people who send food back to the kitchen 3 times, and an all-round African ideas man. So we're going to speak to him about what he's doing at the moment. And he's also interested in survival and kind of what we can do to be better human beings. So good reasons, all of those, to have him on the show this morning. Thapelo Mokoena, how are you, sir? Yeah, let me just bring him back.
Good morning, top of the morning. Yo, top of the morning, gentlemen. I'm very good.
Hey, Thapelo.
I'm good.
Right.
Hey, man.
It's nice to see you.
Gareth, good to see you, my brother. I always look forward to chatting with you. Your mind interests me. You're one of those people. I'm always like, this is going to be explosive. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy to have you on, but it sounds like you have really expanded your field of expertise and the number of things that you're involved in. I mean, you've got a restaurant, you're a wine producer. Tell us about all of this, because usually actors, they stick to their knitting, because I don't want to be rude here, but a lot of actors I know don't really have anything else that they can do. And I know you're a man of many talents, so you were never going to be one of those. But these seem like quite disparate things.
Yeah, I guess, we people, we come in different shades, tones, impacts, forces, energies. And I'm raised on a farm, man. Like I grew up in Ladysmith. Like you mentioned of my birth story. I was born at home in the Bundus, in the rural areas of Ladysmith. I didn't, I couldn't wait to get to hospital. And I grew up herding cows, for the first 5-6 years of my life, like on a farm, milking cows, fetching water. So the idea of being a working family was entrenched very, very early on in my family. I'm raised with my 4 brothers, a family of 5 boys from my mom and dad. And really the one thing I remember from when I was a kid is that my family just really worked hard. My dad with the standard 4 education, God rest him, the kind of things he achieved, because he was the person we had front row seats. His life was, we had front row seats to his life. And we watched this man who really didn't have an education sort of do the most amazing things, founding the National Soccer League in this country, forming a professional football club out of nothing. Used to sell milk on like a donkey cart to eventually driving trucks to eventually buying his first football club. So I credit all of that to hunger and having seen one of the greatest examples of resilience and going against the grain, during a very oppressive time. That man achieved things that I can't even believe he did. But, that was an example for all of us, my brothers and I. So the whole business interest, the entrepreneurial appetite was born. And that's all my brothers and I ever dreamt of becoming successful moguls. We didn't know how, but that's what we spoke about as kids. And when I look at our lives now, we are, we fully entrenched in the world of business. And that's just that.
I love the story because, first of all, you were born like close to the soil, which is something that I think, many times Ben and I have touched on the Friday episodes of the show, but it comes up often. It's like there's so many people who are living in a world now which is so removed from where we all come from. And like if you don't have any connection to where you come from, you do feel like unmoored. You feel like you don't really have a harbor to go back to when you're out in the wildness of the sea. It seems to me that a lot of people were never taught how to grow stuff on the land. They were never taught how to herd cattle. They were never taught, we value an academic education. We say, oh, well, that person is a doctor or that person is a multi-graduate in several different disciplines, but they can't change a car tire or raise their own livestock or grow something in the fields. Those skills are probably going to be more valuable in the future than a law degree. Do you think that's true?
Absolutely. My man, you've just nailed it. Absolutely. The one thing I always credit my parents for is teaching us or keeping us connected to, like you say, the soil, to the ground. Obviously, growing up in a farm, you kind of don't have a choice, but we were made conscious of agriculture. When I was growing up, there used to be a whole class or what you call it, a whole class on agriculture, on working the soil, on seeds and planting. I don't see that in our syllabus at schools anymore. And as a funny story, I always say this to my Joburg, to my city friends. I'm like, the one thing I think that has been a blessing in my life, especially as an artist, is I was really blessed with perspective. I travel the world, I live in a city now, but I've got so much POVs from other facets of life, like from a farming aspect where there isn't much electricity, where there isn't much, technology, but just the basics. And speaking of what you touch on, my brothers and I, my mother would section out pieces of the field for us and would give us seeds to grow different sort of vegetables, and we all had to take care of our little patch of the garden throughout the year. We all had to learn how to rotate the soil so we could change, little patches the following year. So a funny thing I always say to my friends is, if all food supply had to end in the world and all supermarkets were to close and all we had were seeds, I'm sad to say this, but I would probably outlive all of you guys, because I would know exactly what to do. I would know exactly what to do. I promise you, with a pumpkin seed, I'd know exactly how to plant potatoes. I'd know exactly how to get some carrots off the ground. So it is a blessing. And you're right, Gareth. That conversation is not top of mind anymore. And the way things are going in the universe, we're going to need to have these conversations a bit more.
I'm right.
Incredible,
these are the skills we need. I mean, this is something you've brought up a couple of times, right, Ben?
Yeah, exactly. But all of those things you talk about there are hard work. And that's another thing that people, they always gravitate away from that. Like, screens are so easy because they tell you everything. Tilling the soil and learning about seeds, that's dirty. That's a long time ago for a lot of people.
I mean, we've sort of, walked slap bang into the middle of a world that is all about convenience. So how quickly can I do it? How quickly can I get the 6-pack? How quickly can I dye my beard to make it look like it's naturally gray? Like, to give it a natural, no, sometimes these, Gareth, you laugh, I get that all the time. Guys are hitting me up on my Twitter DMs. Hey, bro, how do you get your beard that gray? I'm like, how do I tell you this? I hate to break it to you. This is just God at work and like genetics, and people want a product. People want a product. So yes, we do make a lot of money off convenience. Yes, we do make money off me being able to get a product, my wine, to you in under 48 hours. But yes,
what's your wine called?
My wine is called Nero. Nero. It's a narrow varietal. It's a narrow grape.
Yes. Yeah. Listen, dude, can I just ask you, while we're talking about you, I just want to quickly. This is really cool. There's this new horror series which is called Pulse. Pulse is on Showmax, and you have a role in this. Just tell us about Pulse and tell people why they got to watch it, because it sounds like a very cool series.
Yeah, so 21 years in this acting career, thank God it's been really fruitful. And it really feels like I've been in the gym for the past 21 years, or rather 20. And walking onto the set of Pulse felt like my first day at work, because I feel like, the experiences I've had in this career.
Hello?
In this field. Sorry, man.
We got you back. We got you back now. So just pick up where you left. You were saying it felt like the first day on the job when you went on the set of Pulse.
Absolutely. It feels like my past, 20 years have been a warm-up. And like a friend of mine likes to say, practice makes permanent. I feel like I've been practicing to get to this point in my career where I can take these leading man roles and really carry a story from beginning to middle to end. And Pulse is exactly that. We shot Pulse in Mauritius last year, spent 4 months on the island. It's a survival horror series. We're in the world of gaming, international gaming company run by my character, Errol. And these are a bunch of gamers who are about to introduce a reboot to the world. And this is the reboot of the Pulse game that has an opportunity and a chance to change their lives for good. Everything is going well. They're almost done with the design. They're about to present it to the publishers, and something goes wrong. And this is the world we're in. And, not being a gamer myself, but obviously being a performer and being method and going into the world, I really respect this world and how it translates and how it exposes us to people's psychological positionings is really beautiful. And I think everybody can find themselves in each of these characters, if not all of them. So it's really, really interesting. Wow. Came out yesterday, and you guys should check it out.
Definitely. I mean, especially if it's just come out now, I've heard good things about it. Showmax is where you will find Pulse, and you can go and watch a brand new horror series called Pulse. Acting and and producing in South Africa is a pretty tough business. But I mean, you really have had an amazing career. I've got to ask you this too, because people are now talking about the beard. You brought it up. Congo Chris says, as a fellow salt and pepper natural, I also get hit with that question about how to go gray. Thapelo isn't making that up. There used to be a time where people didn't want to show that they were older because gray usually was associated with old. But you've got this you got this young face and then this gray beard, and the contrast is probably what gets people thinking that it's fake. Do you get a lot of questions about your age?
Yeah, absolutely. All the time. You know, I'm 39. I'm about to turn 40 towards the end of this year. I get it all the time. For me, it's an interesting conversation because also male grooming has become quite a reality, you know, especially in Africa. You know, we more aware and we more conscious of our upkeep as men. And as a result, my fellow brother Chris, they will ask that question. I've been working on something really amazing for the past 2 years since the beginning of COVID. And I'm excited to say, in a matter of weeks, we're about to go live and introduce what I've been working on, yet another product range. It's not wine this time, but in the grooming space, in the African male grooming space, I'm about to take care of all of us. And I think for me, this is the exciting part, to start having conversations around male grooming, especially from an African products ingredients perspective, accommodating our African climate as African diverse men. So Chris, look out for the great announcement soon. We're about to take over the grooming space.
That's very cool. I wonder when we'll ever get to the stage, if we will, where male kind of grooming as opposed to female beauty products, because you can't use the word beauty with men, otherwise they'll get all nervous. It's a multi-billion-dollar business in women's makeup and beauty. I mean, that's probably one of the greatest industries that's ever been built in the last 100 years. And although men are not going to nearly spend as much, I suppose, there's certainly a huge gap in the market for guys to kind of look after themselves a bit better. You know, just improve yourself generally.
Yeah, 100%.
That's exactly what it should be. It's the whole improve yourself for better. People get all, as you say, nervous around beauty, but guys should just be better with everything. And this is where the grooming comes into it. But it'll never be as lucrative because guys need so few things to actually look good. This is the irony of it, is that they're so lazy they can't even get the basics right, and that's what we should be doing.
Yeah, and there's room there, and it's funny, but there's room there for a much bigger conversation. I agree with you, and lest we forget, the people, the family member that really goes out to invest in wellness products or grooming products is the female. So even if grooming, you know, is about, we're talking about male grooming, the ones who spend on grooming in general, even our grooming as men, are our ladies, our mothers, our sisters, our wives, our girlfriends. So that conversation is late. And I look forward to really picking it up without being nervous, like Gareth says, and just being okay with the fact that I'm trying to be the best version of myself. If that is external or internal, that is the mission. And I think over and above selling products, the same way I treat the wine. The wine is good already, we've established that, but we need to sell the thinking behind it, the story, the motivation, the inspiration. And in the same way, we want the external beauty that we're targeting to influence the internal. We want our products to associate with a good man, with the best version of himself, the best father, the best son, the best husband. So there's a bigger conversation than just looking pretty and being the most handsome guy in the room, you know?
Well, then unfortunately, you've already lost Gareth, though. Because he only cares about the most handsome man in the room. He doesn't care about any other attributes. That's it.
Well, Parallel Parking says, Thapelo is another lovely South African. Thank you for having him on. Well, I mean, we haven't spoken for a while, but it seems to me like this is also true, I suppose, across the board. There are some people who over the last 2.5 years have actually gone backwards. And Ben and I were talking about this earlier, you know, the screens and people who don't really put in the effort, and if they don't have to go into the office, they won't. And there's like this general laziness and apathy for some people, but some people have really grabbed this opportunity with both hands and become better. They've actually improved.
100%, man. Like, you're looking at someone like myself. Like, I'm so technologically challenged, man. Like, I'm getting better. I won't lie, but like, I've realized that, we kind of have to get on with it and adapt, and this is a good quality for us Africans, Africans of all color. We are resilient and we adapt. Tell us there's load shedding, we'll come out looking pretty the next day, but with looking good, like we've bathed on the warmest water. Tell us there's no water, we'll come up with a plan. Tell us there's lockdown and we can't move, we'll make a plan. So I've had to challenge myself to understand things that are coming up, that are in the future. I'm talking about the digital world, selling not at the store, but moving on to selling online. How do I engage with you in that facet? So the laziness aspect really puzzles me sometimes, because we all now as Africans sitting on our smartphones, we've got access to so much information. Yes, I'm on my social media, but I could research things. Like, you raised some interesting facts and information on grooming globally and the industry. That is true. It's $1 billion industry. We have, as Africa, we still, if you walk into your bathroom, 80% of your products in your bathroom are European, if not more. We're talking about face wash, lotion, body wash, toothpaste. Those products are not coming out of our, so there's a big gap where we can literally create for our brown skins, for our ingrowns as Black men, because our hair curls into our skin, and so we could do better to take care of our skin where the hair follicles grow, that in turn preventing things like ingrowns. It's simple information, but how do we package that? So I don't know, man.
I got out of the shower yesterday and I was suddenly thinking, we take it for granted now that we kind of wash once a day or twice a day or once every 2 days. People have different routines, but you think about it, just 100 years ago, there was nowhere in the world where people were doing that every day. Nowhere. Like, there wasn't a single part of the planet where people were actually, like, imagine having sex 500 years ago. Like your ancestors and our ancestors and everybody else's ancestors were doing. It must have been a very unpleasant experience. I mean, sure, it was pleasant by comparison with being, killed in a war or having your village burnt down by marauders. But the fact is, like, even we think about how, this beautiful girl and how she would smell and what she would look like, what she would feel like. I mean, there was no such thing as like bathing and grooming in the 1500s anywhere in the world. These people were stinky, they were smelly, they were dirty, and yet they still managed to make the generations that led to us. I mean, I think that's quite an incredible realization.
It's quite incredible.
When I was getting out of the shower, I said, it's here we are. We wash every day, and we're like, you're putting on deodorant, and if you've spent the whole day in the same clothes and you haven't changed, and you've been doing some heavy work, you've been lifting things up and moving things around, you're like, I really should go and have a shower. That wasn't an option for people 200 years ago. They just carried on stinking it up for a whole week.
It's incredible. That's incredible. And you know what? Their skins look better. Their skins look better with all that less, they still got by. And I think, for them, it wasn't about being dirty or for those generations of being dirty or smelling a particular way, because they couldn't see it. It wasn't there. So that was enough. So I can imagine that they didn't see it as dirty. They didn't see it as, they just saw it as, oh, thank you. You just caught another buck. Thank you for breakfast. It was just that, so survival. I don't know, man. I think the evolution of just humanity is just beautiful. And and where it all comes from is such a beautiful place. Less is definitely, without a doubt, more. We put so much stuff on us that no wonder we turn out the way we do at times.
As Ben says, though, we have to keep it at a minimum because guys are pretty lazy about this stuff. I mean, I have my routine. I could survive on toothpaste, hair shampoo, and not even that, because you could probably use soap. I mean, I don't use fancy, expensive shampoo, and like a body wash, like a shower gel or a bar of soap. I mean, that's all you need. The rest is like a luxury. I mean, sure, once you get out of the shower, then there's probably deodorant and that kind of shit. But even that, I wonder how many people absolutely need that and how many people really don't. They're just doing it because everybody else does, and you get sold this shit.
Well, if you're eating good, like organic foods, and you can also then bypass some of that as well. There are some people who believe that toothpaste is actually really, really bad for you, and they get away from that.
Yeah.
Because they say the fluoride's really bad for you. Gareth, if you've got a dreadful diet, you might smell a bit different as well. Because the whole thing about perspiration is a natural thing. And here we are putting antiperspirant on it. The word anti should have been looked into a little bit more. I'm a big fan of moisturizing because I'm getting old. I'm a year older than you. I don't look as good though. So I subscribe to moisturizer, but I'm of this opinion that the moisturizes your skin enough for you to look okay now, but it dries you that you need it for later as well. I know it sounds like a beauty conspiracy, but I reckon that's how it works.
Now, Ben, it's definitely not a conspiracy. Here's something that always puzzles me. I travel quite a bit with my work and all my other endeavors. And, I found myself, where was I? I was in Asia somewhere. I was in Thailand, I think, some years ago. And I was so in my head and so stressed about not having enough moisturizer. And the people I was with on the island who live there don't even touch moisturizer. It's not even a thing for them. They don't wake up and I could feel my skin cracking because I'm from South Africa. We Vaseline. You wake up, you put Vaseline, you put glycerin, you put aquas cream, you put, you know what I'm saying? Camphor cream. I was like, what is this? Why were we so? And when our natural bodies already produce these lubricants. So, I think there's a bit of a commercial exercise that was done on us here that was more aggressive, or a big PR campaign that was more aggressive than anywhere else in the world, because we're so big on lotion, the type of lotion, the fragrance. And hey, somebody's making top dollar off that. And whether or not we should be super conscious of the products we use or just our wellness is the question. That's why I say beauty or wellness is not just about, I've put on my beard oil, now I'm ready. It's also internal, because what are you consuming? What are you eating? I'm big on fitness and cycling and running. And of course, I'm a father now of 2, and I'm also coming to my super adult age. I'm about to turn 40, and I'm conscious of it. I found myself and my wife are more conscious of what we eat. She's gone superfoods all the way, and I'm sort of tagging along. And the more I tag along, the better I feel. The more reserves I have, my energy feels better. It sits better. So it is the entire thing. What goes in must come out. So there's a consciousness, and I think beauty should not just be about, oh, I look like James Bond now, gray beard, ooh, black this, that. No. Beauty should be about, how do you feel? And if the past 2 years have taught us anything, is we gotta be more conscious about how we eat, what we put in, and how it influences everything that we are externally. The people we've lost in the past 2 years due to underlying health issues. What's underlying health issues? What's underlying?
You can't be fat. You can't have diabetes, and you can't just eat everything you want. And I see people walking around just eating the most terrible food, and I think you're just asking for trouble, because later on that stuff's going to come back to haunt you. Carl says, Gareth, be careful what you say. You are a social influencer. Please, I'm not a social influencer. He says, we don't need people running around stinking. Things are bad enough. Yeah, that's true. Look, I mean, I don't know. It wasn't me. It was Thapelo who said less is more when it comes to that stuff.
Gareth,
and I think maybe
look at it. Look at it this way, Gareth. You and I together, I'll be the black influencer, major influencer, you be the white influencer. We'll take over the world. We'll be like nudity. And we'll just advocate for stinking. Go to work as yourself. Stink by Gareth and Tabs.
I'm I'm not a fan of stinking, but I do think that it is pretty important that people have perspective on this stuff. Like, there's some people who will say, I have to have 2 hot showers a day. You're like, actually, that's kind of a new thing. It's a new thing for humanity.
But Gareth, I want to get back to the really unsavory mental image that you had of sex 500 years ago. There is merit in people having their own sort of smell, and that is attractive to a mate. So back then, you would have, because people weren't so cosmetically minded. There was no breast augmentation. There was no one doing killer squats for killer buns. So smell was probably one of the major attraction features, because everyone looked like cottage cheese back then. Nobody was really doing aesthetic enhancement. So the smell, the whiff that you speak of might have actually been the best thing.
Yeah, maybe that was part of the turn on.
Interesting.
Yeah, because now guys always talk about boobs, they talk about ass, all that kind of stuff. Back in those days, they probably go, "Oh, Jimmy, you should have smelt it. It was, quite something." Girls probably had nicknames just based on their whiff.
Oh, the potency.
Like onions, but not so bad.
I like that, because I really like that, Ben, because hey man, we are of the animal world, we are.
Exactly.
We are like who are we to, just because we now know we overloaded with information, who are we to discredit that maybe was how you sent a signal to a girl. Maybe that's how a girl identified you as the best hunter, because you were just potent, boy. You had a potency about you. There was a funk that just really said, you've killed 4 bucks this week.
Exactly.
I really think there's something to that.
Like blood and getting back to the camp with your fresh kill on your
Boy,
back. It must have been a point in human history where that was a more attractive proposition than the really clean dude who'd been washing in the spring water all morning, but had never caught anything for the last 3 days and relied on
he got nothing.
charity.
Yeah, that boy was useless. Right? Yeah, he was like Mumish of the week. In fact, take me back, man. Take me back. I think I'd do well. Just give me seeds. I'll plant some.
See, this is all so much more interesting than listening to beauty tips, really.
This is how we should engage and talk about beauty, gentlemen. This is it. Imagine a campaign. Imagine the ad before and after.
But what are we selling? Because what we're really telling people is you don't need any of this stuff. So maybe we should shut up right now, because you're about to launch a men's range. So if we stop now, it'll help sell the product, because you're not gonna sell anything to people if you say, stay smelly, go out there, let the funk build up over a couple of days. Don't wash every morning and every night. Wash every 3 mornings or whatever.
No, definitely.
We're arguing against this.
No, but I mean, Gareth, obviously the whole thing about this is selling towards city people. What we're talking about is people who are going away from the cities. Buy products in the city by all means. I want to go more rural.
And also, Gareth, what we're saying here, in addition to what Ben is saying, I think the ultimate message is stay true. Stay true. Right. That is the ultimate. I think the takeout is stay true. Be freaking true to you and yourself. And I think my products, will definitely communicate that, because of how I've approached the ingredients, of how I've approached the we'll talk about it soon enough, but it's about staying true.
Can I ask you quickly, do you still have the family farm in Ladysmith, and do you live there, or do you go there often? Like, what's the story? Because that's a beautiful legacy. You obviously want your kids to inherit it one day as well. I mean, how much attachment do you still have to the land?
Quite a lot, Gareth. Quite a lot. Yes, we do. We still have, we still have our home. Lost my grandmother at 94 last year, so she's, the matriarch of the family is no longer here. She's the woman who delivered me from her daughter, my mother. So we still have it. I go there regularly. The tree I was born under has been cut down now, I think 3 winters ago. But I still go to that little area where my umbilical cord was thrown. I go there with my kids. I take my wife there. I'm quite rooted and connected to that home. That's like Big Mama's house for us, and we want to keep it alive. My brothers and I, we do events there for our little cousins and family members. And I think for me, that root is something I really don't want to let go. It's a one advantage I have over the world and over society, because things are moving so quickly. Whenever I'm done with all my shows, I just go there. There isn't much signal going on there, but there's mountains and the fresh smell of the Drakensberg right next to us. It's northern Natal, so I treasure that area so much.
That's why I'm asking about it, because I think that is massively important. I'm going to say goodbye to Ben. He's got to run, but George Meany's here, the CEO of Auto Trader, and he's got some stuff to tell us. So, bye, Ben. Hi, George.
Bye, everybody. Great weekend.
Cheers, Ben.
Cheers, Ben. How you doing, George? George, how you doing?
I think he's on mute.
There we go. I was on mute. I'm good, and you, Gareth?
Oh, good. Awesome, man. What's been happening? What can you tell us this Friday morning?
Well, Gareth, the first thing is that it has now become cheaper to ride a horse than to drive any car.
I knew it.
So, talk about staying true. Talk about staying true. We're going back in time. I love this show. This is a good one.
No, listen, this morning, George, there's a theme going on here. I mean, everything Thapelo and Ben and I were talking about before is about like the things that we could be doing better that our ancestors were doing. And it sounds to me like you've hit the nail on the head here with this horse thing. So the price of fuel is now so high that it's cheaper to actually buy and ride a horse.
Yep, and cheaper by more than 50%. So some crowd in the United States did a study, and it costs roughly around $5,000 to maintain a car, and about $1,000 for insurance, and then another $1,000. That's about $7,000 a year to run a car. Whereas it costs the average cost of a horse is anywhere between $500 and $2,000 per annum. So less than half the cost to ride a horse, and very dependent on hay prices.
You've just depressed me. You've just depressed me.
Don't you wish we still had horses instead of cars? Why do you say no?
I do. I'm not kidding.
All right. Sounds like Thapelo's in a bit of he's a bit of a delay here. All right. What else have you got for us, George?
And then, Gareth, there was a bear in Tennessee. So this bear, I'm going to send you the link there if you want a visual. This bear decided to open up a F-150 Ford, climb inside, and look for snacks. Now, the funny thing is, this bear didn't destroy the car. He actually opened the car like a human being, got into the car, opened up the glove box, found a packet of M&Ms, took the packet, got out of the car, and then attempted to open the packet of M&Ms.
Are we sure it wasn't an M&M commercial?
But these animals are getting smarter too, and we're starting to see that maybe they're evolving as fast as we are, and they're developing skills like opening the glove box, opening the door, getting in feet first. This is not the kind of behavior you might have seen 100 years ago. Maybe they are getting smarter.
They could be evolving just like we did, and getting to a stage where, who knows, one might answer you one day.
Hey man, or these could just be or maybe these could just be the signs, gentlemen. We need to really relook our positions on this world and look at going back a few steps. These are the times. Nature's literally saying, see us.
That seems to be the theme for this morning, but I'm just hoping that there isn't some animal in the future that will be riding us to work because it's cheaper than driving a vehicle. That wouldn't be good.
Uber horse, Uber horsepower.
Well, the good old piggyback, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then Ferrari has entered the.
Sorry, let me just throw this in quickly, Borge. Congo Chris says, I saw a pearl-wrapped Mustang GT yesterday, the ugliest thing I've ever seen. And I say that as a Stang fan. What do you have to say to that, George?
No, you know what? When people wrap their cars in weird and wonderful colors, it actually just absolutely buggers up the car and its original beauty. I mean, I don't know if you've seen that matte pink wrap that people do on their cars, or this like mustard yellow matte wrap that people, it looks like vomit.
It's terrible. Okay, that doesn't sound nice. I'll agree with you. You're a bit of a purist on that front. Sorry, you were saying something about Ferrari?
Yeah, so Ferrari's entered the fray of electric vehicles because, up to now they've been making hybrids. So they say they want to launch 15 new models between 2023 and 2026. So if you are a Ferrari fan, you can expect Ferrari to come out with some interesting electric cars from 2023 onwards. So, it's interesting that they're moving away from their hybrid strategy to electric cars.
Okay, well, that seems to be a trend all over the place, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely it. Very true. I mean, for example, just to add on that, you obviously know, I can mention the car brand I'm associated to, right, Gareth?
Of course.
On the show. Yeah. So, I'm a global ambassador for Volvo, and been so for a couple of years now. And it's amazing, to add to what my brother there is saying, the electric car sales have gone up in the past month by 60%. So Volvo has sold more electric cars for the first time last month than your normal petrol or diesel. So there is a definite, like a true, like aggressive shift, which is interesting, man, because the world is headed there. I charge my vehicle. I've been charging my vehicle for 3 years. Weird concept, but the fact that I can charge my car for the same value, or almost paying the same as it costs to charge a cell phone, maybe twice, and it's effortless, just a plug on the wall as I park, and having that that hybrid experience has really sort of changed the way I view things. Even when the petrol goes up, I'm like, it's horrible, but like I'm like, whew, at least I can just I can use a bit of electricity and balance it out, and it works. It's insane.
You are speaking George. You're speaking George's language here. He loves this.
I mean, it's fascinating, Gareth. I'm so traditional, Gareth. Like, I even forget to charge my car, and when I don't have enough money, I'm like, why didn't you charge a damn thing? But like, I'm getting there. I'm getting used to it now, and I promise you, this approach is sustainable, is sensible. It's just that obviously we are people, and we are stuck in our ways.
And maybe we want to ride horses.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
What else you got for us, George?
And then finally, Gareth, I don't know if you've heard, Mercedes-Benz South Africa has recalled 13,159 cars sold between 2006 and 2019 due to possible brake failure concerns. So inside the one of the cylinder housings, there are bolts that potentially are rusting. And so if you have a Mercedes-Benz manufactured between 2006 and 2019, phone Mercedes-Benz or go onto their websites and go and have a look if you're one of those recalled.
That's a massive gap. That's a massive timeline. That's huge.
Yeah, it is. I mean, these things happen. It's going to cost them some money, that's for sure.
Sure.
Damn. All right, well, gentlemen, I'm going to have to call us to order at the end of the show. It's already 8 o'clock, and I appreciate both of your time. George, always good to see you. Thapelo, great to catch up, man, and I hope we get to see you in person soon. Keep doing the great work that you're doing.
Man.
Don't forget to catch Thapelo on a brand new series, which is called Pulse. It's on Showmax. It's a horror series. He has a leading role in that. You need to watch it. It's amazing. By all accounts, everybody's telling me it's a winner. And great to see you, dude. We'll catch up soon.
Much love, Cliff. Great to see you. Salute, my bro. And I can't wait to catch up with you soon. I'll send you some wine.
Cheers. Thank you. That would be very nice. Cheers, everybody. George,